Well, hello, hello. Beautiful as always to be with you. So, it looks like our next retreat will be December 6th. That's what I'm shooting for. So let's see if the gods cooperate with us. So, just for everyone in Europe and different countries around the world, the United States is having a time change. I believe it's next Saturday. So it'll affect Satsang, which will be on like November 1st or 2nd or 3rd, something like that. So just keep that in mind. And then we'll all get on the same page with the time change in the following week. So this month might be a little bit messy. We also have Thanksgiving here in the United States, which this year is in the last week of November. So anyways, just pay attention. Pay attention to the calendar in the coming weeks. Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's shut down our eyes and open our hearts. And I invite you to pull all of yourself here. You need all of your energy, all of your presence here in this room, here in this body, here in this moment. And from a place of compassion, let's just scan our bodies and see if there's anything here, any place that could use a greater sense of ease, relaxation, or peace. And calling forth God's grace to flow down into our bodies, into our life, into our family, into our community, and into this world. And just noticing what happens as you begin to soften and open, relaxing the body, connecting to God's grace. Connecting to the innate goodness of your heart. The immense strength of the heart. So we're opening to our depth, to our radiance, to our love, our compassion. And simultaneously inviting grace to flow down, to wash over the body, bringing forth a harmony and a balance. And then inviting this grace to shine out to the world. And so we are arriving here at Satsang. In all of ourself, all of our energy, all of our presence. We are softening, we are opening, we are reconnecting to the truth of our being. So much of our life is lived in the world of habit, or lived in under the influence of samsara. But in this moment, we're choosing to stand up, to wake up, to say no to the forces of habit, no to the forces of samsara, and yes to the energies of truth, the energies of love. The energies of peace, presence of peace. And so I'm beginning to notice that more and more of you are arriving here and coming into alignment with the truth. Coming into alignment with what you are. It's a funny thing to say, to come into alignment with what we are, but as human beings, we tend to get confused. We tend to get lost here on planet Earth. So in this moment, we are remembering who we are and saying yes. Yes to love. Yes to silence. Yes to peace. Yes to compassion. And I'm going to invite us right now just into a space of inquiry. And I invite you to look at your life, look at your path. And I invite you to see where you are losing power, where you abdicate your spiritual authority, where you give away the truth. And I invite you just to see that. To see this untruth that has influenced you. And in this moment, of course, I'm going to invite you to take your power back. And if this is in any way difficult for you, one, to see, or two, to take your power back, let us call forth the grace of God to give us the strength to stand in the truth, to stand in our highest spiritual power and authority. And so we welcome the energies of support, the energies of transformation. We welcome any and all letting go. They'll be supportive in our next step on the journey. Okay, and so welcome to open your eyes, and I welcome you to Satsang. I welcome you into this space. And I invite you to take a moment and just put in the chat, to share what are the places that you give your power away. And sometimes we literally give our power away. And other times we just get a little sleepy, within ourselves. And then we find ourselves, I don't know how to say this, elbow deep in a bag of chips, or a bag of cookies, or, we find ourselves, just scrolling on Instagram for 2.5 hours, wondering what just happened? What just happened? Sometimes it's just someone arguing with you, like here in the United States, we're like, I think 2 weeks away from an election. And so many of us probably got our feathers ruffled here or there. Someone disagreed with our political beliefs or whatever. Someone at work told you you're wrong or this or that. And so this next retreat, we're going to be looking at investigating our spiritual power and what that actually means. What it actually means. Most of us, when we think of power, we might think about manifesting or having power over people, look into my eyes, then having power over someone. I can't tell you how many cartoons I saw as a little boy when, there was a genie or someone look into my eyes, and then, the little cartoon guy was hypnotized or whatever. It would be made to, do a little song and a dance or whatever it is. And, we think of spiritual power, and we might not know what does that mean? Like, can I manifest? Can I create a world of just great abundance or this or that? And that's not what I'm speaking about. Spiritual power has to do with you not leaving yourself, you not leaving the truth. And I'm saying not leaving the truth because I see the truth as the natural state, the truth as what you are fundamentally. And so this next retreat, we'll have meditation and, satsang and spiritual talks, questions, all this and that. But we're also going to be doing a lot of inquiry on this retreat to really investigate where we lose our power, where we give our power away. Many of us were just, well, how should I say this? Like I could say it politely, you could say, well, we're a victim of circumstance. We're born into this world, and this world, it casts a spell upon us. Here in the United States, like one of the great spells is, having success, or, with social media, it's having lots of followers. In the olden days, it was, I want to be rich and famous. Now it's, I want to be an Instagram influencer. I'm never sure what that actually is, I had a friend once, and I went, he actually flew me to come visit him, and, across the big pond, I think they call it. And when I got there, his son said, his son came up to me and said, "Oh, Dad, like this is your friend. It's Craig Holliday, the YouTuber." And I was like, "The YouTuber? Like, is that what I am? I hope that's not what I am. The YouTuber." It really made me smile. That's hilarious. You know, in a sense, I could see that as an insult. What I think I'm doing. But anyways, many of us were born into this world and we get sucked up in these ideas. And that's like, like in my mailbox right now, it's just every day I just get all this junk mail. I mean, we're all getting it now. And it's literally junk mail. It's like toxic mail. It's like these big high gloss, um, you know, posters, flyers talking about, all the crooks in Washington or, in your local county commissioner or whatever. It's just like one party is paying money to talk about what a crook the other one is, and it's like, could you imagine if somebody, sent out, I don't know, 500,000 letters to your community about what a terrible human being you were. It's just like, my gosh, the political world is it's so toxic, so toxic, so toxic. And I'm going to ask for y'all to forgive me because, I've said, a number of things, in the satsang about politics. And, I've been a Democrat my whole life. And this is the first time, I started to step away from being a Democrat. That doesn't automatically make me a Republican. It's just, I just started to fall. I started to just feel really let down by my party. And so you might have heard some comments, me picking on the Democrats or me picking on the Republicans. And, forgive me if I hurt your feelings. But please, we must remember we're at satsang here. We are here to have our egoic identities dismantled. And so for that, you're not going to, I'm not going to ask for your forgiveness, but for hurting your feelings or, if I caused any confusion, excuse me, forgive me. If you think I said something that wasn't true, it's just like, what is the truth anymore? What is the truth? And when I used to do couples counseling, it was always hilarious. It was just like two people who lived in the same house and they had radically different perspectives. And, they'd always look to me and say, I want you to call the other one a liar. And I'm just like, I don't think they're lying. They really believe this is how it is. They really believe it. They really believe it. It's their truth. But it's definitely not the truth. It might be a truth, but it's not the truth. In the world of spiritual power, of spiritual authority, this is not a world of belief. This is a world of knowing who and what you are. Who and what you are. And because you know who and what you are, you're not influenced, not entirely influenced by the outside world. So spiritual power often looks like a choice of choosing how to respond to life. Whereas with egoic power, we think about having authority over the world, and, having lots of money and this and that, and maybe having a lot of people at your disposal. Having a great system, or how about a terrible system behind you? Like the world of politics, it's like tends to be a world of a lot of power, a lot of influence. But if we're going to be free here on planet Earth, we're not talking about chasing after things in a human way. We're speaking about you standing in the truth when times are good and standing in the truth when times are bad. Choosing the truth when times are bad, choosing the truth when times are good. When times are good. And so when I look here, like what David Morris says, your political comments are just annoying to me. I like that. I like that. And thank you, David, for saying that. There's some people who have felt like they needed to leave the Sangha, because the spiritual teacher at the head of the Sangha is a centrist. He's not a Democrat, not a Republican, but a centrist, a middle of the road guy. And to me, it's a little bit humorous. And people get so upset from a fella who's, at least I feel like I'm in the middle. I feel like I'm in the middle of something. So anyways, so let's look. I don't want to get too into it because people can't handle it. It's heartbreaking to me. Like people can't handle a conversation. Can't handle a conversation. Uh, okay. Kyle writes, sometimes I give my power away to social norms. Yeah, we all do this. We all brush our teeth. At least I think so. I hope so. And so that's a social norm, and that's a good, healthy social norm. So it's not like that's a bad thing. But there's all kinds of things in this world where we are expected. We are expected to do something because of our tribe. And again, like I'll just keep talking about politics just because I'm not supposed to, but we all grew up in a family, and our mom and dad were probably in the same political party, and they expect that you vote the same way. They expect that. Like my town, I live in a very blue town, and so there's this expectation that we're all on the same team. But you'll find that the tribal truth isn't always the greater truth, isn't always your truth. There's all kinds of rules in this world. If no one's around, I might just roll through some red lights. I might roll through some stop signs. I don't recommend this, but when no one's around, it's like, what are we worried about? What are we worried about? And see, these social norms, they keep us safe in the tribe. And as a being who's spiritually awakening, we have to ask ourselves, am I a tribal creature? Or am I a divine being? Am I a tribal creature? Or am I a divine being? Like, what is it that I am? What is it that I am? Yeah. 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 Jennifer writes, she gives her power away to her mother. Yeah, we all do this. We all do this. Give little bits of power away to mom, to dad, to sister, brother. And we can ask ourselves, like, is this the way? Is this the truth? Is this the truth? Of course, it's not the truth. Of course, it's not. But we are conditioned as children that our parents have all the power. I'm still attempting to condition my 10-year-old daughter that her dad has all the power, that her mother has all the power. And she just fights with us every day. It's just like, it's something. She has the strongest will. It just amazes me, the things she says to me that, I mean, I would have never thought, to say any of this to my mother or father. And it's a funny thing. And, um, how much power we give away to mom or dad. And it makes sense when we're living in the house with them. But as an adult, I encourage you to take all your power back. Doesn't mean you need to fight with them, but this means you're going to do and live your highest truth. There's been a number of people I've worked with. It's more than I would like to say. I've had this thing, it's just some particular karma where people who have come to me in medical school, in the last year of their medical school or their internship, and they come to me complaining about not wanting to be a doctor. And I look at them like they're crazy. I'm like, why the hell are you in med school? Well, because my dad wanted me to. I'm like, who's going to live your life? Is your dad going to live your life, or are you going to live your life? And, it's just like, I can't imagine how much money that cost, when they said, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. They walked away with all those loans and all that. Here in this country, I don't know how it happens, how it works in other countries, but it's an expensive thing when you don't listen to the truth. Lauren writes, she gives her power away to spiritual perfectionism. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I saw early on, that I was never going to be perfect. Nowhere close to it. I didn't, and the perfect was never in my vocabulary. It was saintly. I wanted to be one of these saintly individuals, and just wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen. This wasn't going to happen. And so, I smile now. Richard writes, reactivity. Yeah, it's like, well, what kind of reactivity? It's like so many of us are reactive. But I want us to really zero in on, well, how are we reactive? Like in what way? In what way? Like me, I have a tremendous amount of fire. So if I have a reactivity, it's going to come out with some angst. It's going to come up with some colorful words, some colorful language. And, that's something that I work on. That's something that I work on. It's a stressful thing to be a human being. And still to this day, like, I still wake up in the mornings and I can't believe that I'm in a body, that I have to play by the rules and the limitations of this earthly realm. The heavenly realms, well, you just can fly around like an angel, and, you can be here or there or everywhere all at once. And, life is much more limitless. And every day when I wake up, or at least some point, like throughout the day, I'm just like, oh, like have a Homer Simpson moment where it's like, oh gosh, we are so limited. This world is so slow. It's so slow. And the speed at which we change, the speed at which the world changes is so slow. So slow. And it's frustrating. I find it downright frustrating, because God is always giving me these grand visions. Even just like to name a date for the retreat. It's like, I want to do the retreat right now. Like right now. But I have to wait. I have to set it up. I have to wait for some more things, to fall into alignment. I find it frustrating. Frustrating. And often, I give my power away to this frustration of, this world not being able to move quicker, my body not being able to move quicker. And so, to regain our power, often we have to come into the realm of deep acceptance, accepting this is the world we are in. This is the speed at which things change, at least in this moment. At least in this moment. Yeah. Greg writes, I lose my power to future tripping. Yeah. How many of us are living in the future? In the future, it's like when I like, I love the people many people come to me when I'm enlightened, then I'll start sharing the truth, living the truth. It's like, well, how about right now? How about right now? How about right now? How about you speak the truth right now? Would you take charge of your life right now? And when we choose right now, that creates the causes and conditions for that so-called future enlightenment. Yeah, but so many of us, we live in the future. It's like, my God, like the future. Every time I see one of Elon's trucks, the Cybertruck, I feel like I'm looking at the future. I'm like, oh my God, look at that thing. So when driving up my hill, like every time I see it, it looks so out of place. And I'm just like, look at that thing. Look at that thing. It's like the future. The future is just like driving down the road. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. I don't know if we ever get into the future. Okay, Catherine O'Neill writes, judgment and reactivity. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's an interesting thing to give your power away to judgment. Because judgment, if it's your own judgment, well, then that's a form of sabotaging where you have your power, but then you judge yourself. You judge yourself as too small or too big or too this or too that. And then pretty soon you find that you're not able to speak. You're not able to shine because you've given your power away. And this is a great question. How do I give my power away? If we want to be awake in the world, we cannot give our power away. We can't give it away. We can't give it away to fools. We can't give it away to politicians. I know, again, everyone gets so crazy with presidential election. We have to remember we've already had both these candidates. We've had them both. We've had Miss Harris. We've had Mr. Trump. It's like we've had them both already. We've had them both already. We've experienced life under both. But we miss the king, the queen of this world is the divine. Is the divine. Is the divine. It's not Mr. Trump. It's not Mrs. Harris. It's God. The mother, the father, the creator is the ruler of this realm. Of all realms. Of all realms. The creator. But we get carried away. We get lost. So lost. It's like when we watch get carried away. I think it's the World Series right now. I saw that. Forgive me if I'm a week late or a week early, but I think I saw it somewhere on the interweb that it's the World Series. And again, we think, okay, we need our team to win. Our life will be somehow different if our team wins. It'll be tragic if they lose, and we have to remember who rules this world. Who rules this world? And this is a paradox. It's a great paradox because, of course, God rules the world. And then together, we are all divine beings. And we all have this power of choice. And the direction in which our world goes really doesn't have to do much with whether it's Mr. Trump or Mrs. Harris. Or, let's throw in someone else, Jill Stein, or RFK or someone. He's like, I actually like those two leaders better than the first two I shared. But our world is more likely to change through all of us living in the truth. All of us living in the truth. Together as a song of us choosing the truth, choosing the highest. This is how our world is going to change. It's not going to change all of a sudden on November 5th when Mr. or Mrs. somebody gets elected. Our world will change. It'll become the type of world we want when all of us choose to live the highest. But we tend to give our power away to these political characters, saying, hey, you lead us, you lead us, you lead us, you lead us. And if we ask fools to lead us, well, we will have a messy world, a messy world. If we choose to walk in the direction of the truth, and we choose to do this communally, we're going to have a much different world. Much different world. And I know I can remember, this was a number of years ago. And I know, someone said this the other day. I can't remember what it was, but it was something like, in the last 16 years, and forgive me if I get this wrong, in the last 16 years, we've been ruled mostly. I'm not even going to say because I'm going to screw it up. But let's just say this. I can remember when Obama was elected and everyone was cheering and excited and like this waves of euphoria throughout our country. And, the guy before Obama, well, who was that? That was that fellow who got us in all those damn wars. We thought, oh my God, when Obama's elected, everything's going to change. We're going to have world peace and this and that. And, it was like the Messiah had come to town. And, I think there was some change, but it wasn't astronomical. And if we're good Christians, we might just sit back and wait for Jesus to come back. But God, I think, is actually hanging out in heaven, looking at us, saying, hey, you, all of you, each of you, when are you going to choose the truth? When are you going to choose the highest? When will you choose to forgive and to let go and to be kind and to be compassionate? When will you choose? When will you choose the highest? When will you choose the highest? Not when will you, like most of us, we vote like once every 4 years. And we're utterly sleepy in the political arena during those 4 years. And then we just do this one thing. This one thing. God is inviting us to do the 100 things every day, to stand in the truth, to breathe in the truth, to breathe out the truth, to speak the truth, to share the truth, to smile at darkness, to smile at darkness, to breathe into the density of stress, to bring compassion to toxic relationships, to listen to the places inside that are painful, that are hurting, to stand in your authority and to say no to the voices of craziness inside. The voices of craziness. What are the voices of craziness? The voices where we get carried away in our own egoic identity. Our own egoic identity. If you want to be free, you must have a fit container. Your mind must be clear. Your heart must be open. You must know that your essence is indestructible. We do not become free through giving our power away. Become free by standing in the truth, saying yes to the highest. Yes to the highest. But as we're born into this world, we are taught to say yes to mom and dad, to say yes to mom and dad. We're taught, to bow before silly things like fashion. At school. At school, I can remember, gosh, this was silly. It's just a silly thing. But when I was a little kid, I can remember in the 80s, like the cool jeans. What were the cool jeans? Guess jeans, maybe Jordache jeans. Like that was a thing, right? Jordache. It's like a horse or something. Like when I was a kid, couldn't imagine running a pair of Jordache jeans right now. It'd be silly. It'd be silly. Thinking that means something. Thinking that means something. And let me tell you, like right now I run Wranglers, because that's what I got. Like that's what I got. And it's like, is there a difference between Wranglers and Levi's, or what's the other company? Lee. That was always confusing to me. Lee and then Levi's. It's like, does that mean anything? And I can remember like all the cool kids had a sweater that said, was it Benetton? Is that how you say it? Benetton? It was like a label, when I was a kid. And that meant something. That meant that these kids had status and wealth and they were popular and this and that. I didn't have that. Like I didn't have that. We didn't have money for those kind of clothes. And so I can remember feeling like a lacking in confidence when I hung out with certain kids at school because they all had the right kind of jeans and I didn't. And I didn't. My mom always took us to, we shopped at the clearance rack, whatever store we were at, so whatever was on clearance, we might get some of that. But again, it's like we have all these ideas. All these ideas have been bred into us and they seem silly right now. But I bet you there's some of us here in the Sangha who thinks that a certain car means something still. A certain car, a certain address, a certain zip code, a certain number in the bank account. And we all give our power away to these things. And at some point, we have to just ask ourselves, well, what is the truth? What is the truth? What is it that I am fundamentally? Fundamentally, am I an ego who's judging, hating, sabotaging, and prostituting myself? Again, that's a pretty poor choice, a pretty poor choice. Or am I the awake one who chooses to live in alignment with that which is noble? What is it that I am? What direction am I walking? And for many of us, like we're walking in the direction of the truth, but we have all these other aspects of us that are walking in the opposite direction. And sometimes on the spiritual path, we can just say, okay, like just okay to that one, who's just walking in the direction of the truth. But I got to go and pick up, all these little parts of me where I'm losing my energy, that are slowing me down, that are off lost in one direction or another. I need to go gather up those soul parts of me and bring them back into alignment with the truth. And for many of us, that's what the spiritual path is. Like we're pretty good. We're like, I know who I am. I know what my life's about, but I have all these parts of me that I need to go gather up. That I need to gather up and bring them into the truth. Bring them into a space of love. There's one more thing I'd like to speak about, then I'll open it up here. But early on the path, when we're still a developing ego, everything is about my wants, my desires, my wishes, my feelings, my spiritual sensitivity, which is basically, how I feel all the time. Do people respect me? Oh, so-and-so offended me. And if we're still at the point on the path where we're getting offended, well, that points, just to a basic truth that we are still deeply rooted and deeply identified with our egoic identity. If we're being offended, because somebody said something, disagreed with our politics or our orientation of some sort, and we're stuck in the personal. The further we walk, the more powerful we become on the spiritual path. We tend to leave that me behind who's so offended. We start to see things from a much more world-centric perspective. We see things impersonally. We see things archetypally. We see life on the level of the soul. And I invite you all to hear this. The further we walk, the more impersonal we become. The more impersonal. It doesn't mean we don't care about our human self and our thoughts and our feelings. But we have to remember most of our thoughts and our feelings are conditioned and are given to us by life. But the further you walk, and even if we weren't walking at all, let's just say we're just sitting on the meditation cushion. On day one, on the meditation cushion, it's all about how we're feeling, how we're doing, how things are in our life, which isn't meditation, by the way. That's just like reflection time, reflection time. But let's say, you meditate for 10,000 hours. After about 10,000 hours, you'll find, well, you're not so concerned about your thoughts. You're not so concerned about your egoic feelings. Not so concerned about your politics. Not so concerned about the weather. Not so concerned about your bank account. Rather, you're concerned with peace, with truth, with love. And whether the truth makes you feel better or not, ultimately, it will make you feel better. But the more we mature on the spiritual path and the more empowered you are, you tend to fall in love with the truth. You tend to fall out of love with all your opinions, all your beliefs, your wishes, your desires, your habits, your whatever. And of course, I'm not inviting anyone to become some kind of Zen robot without any feelings. I don't believe in that either. But the further you walk, the more impersonal you become. And there's stages to this. There's stages of awakening where we become more and more impersonal. And I always like to clarify that even if there's this great impersonal sense of self here, you might find yourself more loving, more deeply connected with the hugeness, the immensity, and the smallness even of life than when you're simply lost in your small human egoic identity. So impersonalness doesn't mean you lack love or compassion. It means you see the greater view, the vast view. You may see that your soul needs to be challenged in a certain way to grow. Whereas when you're lost in the personal, you just see any kind of challenge is simply as unfair. We're praying to God to remove the challenge. The further we walk, we tend to pray to God for strength, the strength to face the challenge, instead of for that challenge to be removed from our life. So anyways, if there's anyone here that wants to share or have a question, I want to invite those forward now. Yeah, let's hear from Taylor.
Hello.
Hi, Taylor. Good to see you.
Yeah. See you. So my question is about how we can experience uh, heaviness, frustration, sleepiness that isn't ours. and how if we're out in public, we can breathe with it and notice maybe there's a lot of fear in the room or whatever. But if we're at our home or we're with our friends or family and we're noticing this, um, whatever's there, and we're maybe getting lost in it or getting tangled up in that in some way. And I'd love just to, I'm curious about your experience with that and how you've kind of worked with that and how um, what you would impart in terms of uh, how to avoid that enmeshment or any kind of confusion with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a great question. It's actually something I was thinking about earlier today, because it happens. It happens, and I'm going to say this, that the further we open, well, the more difficult this becomes, because you start feeling more and more and more. And I think that's probably why you're asking the question, is you're opening, a tremendous amount in the last number of years. You're starting to feel more and more and more. And, Taylor, just also, you and I were speaking the other night, and you're working with people and you might feel their stuff, even when you're not working with them. And that's always an interesting thing. That's always an interesting thing. And the way my teacher taught it was, like I would just say, "Hey, David, I'm feeling this." And the first thing he would ask me is, he'd say, "Are you sure it is yours?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Like, it's inside me. It's mine, isn't it?" And this is kind of what I was speaking about being impersonal, is most of us, we assume everything that arises within us is us. Like, this is kind of just one of the games of the samsaric viewpoint, the games of egoic wiring, is whatever we're thinking, whatever we're feeling is me. That's what I am. I'm made up of thoughts and feelings. Well, what if those thoughts, like Taylor's saying, they're not yours? They're not yours. And so much of what we feel isn't ours. It's not ours. And it's one thing, to say that, to acknowledge it. But your question was, well, what do you actually do? So the first thing that caught my attention was you said something about seeing or noticing yourself getting entangled in something. And that's where we have to stop right away. When we're awake and we notice an aspect of our consciousness getting entangled with something, like, give me an example of getting entangled with something.
There might be uh, a lot of confusion or heaviness, and then I might notice, oh, something in me is arguing with that or trying to fix that or trying to make that go away or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, of course, we're going to stop that argument. We're going to stop that argument and acknowledge this thing is here. Like, heaviness is here. Heaviness is a part of life on planet Earth. Heaviness is here. Like, I can say this. I feel so much anxiety all the time. I feel so much fear all the time. And the majority of it is not mine. I'm just like, I wake up in the morning, I just feel people's anxiety just coming on me, from the Sangha. It's just like, oh, and so right away, it's like, all right, I need to breathe, I need to feel, I need to open. I need to literally bring this anxiety into the truth. So for me, a lot of it is just sitting with it. One, with acceptance, but two, like I have this practice of just bringing it to the fire. Like there's a fire here of light. And it's like heaviness. It's like, all right, heaviness. I want to see you like a log, and I'm going to throw you on the fire. And I'm not throwing it out of on the fire like out of resistance or like out of angst, but more just from a place of truth that these things are here. They're coming to me to be felt and to be experienced. And so, Taylor, I invite you to see yourself literally as a bodhisattva. And your job is to take this heaviness and to bring it to the fire, bring it to the light, and let it burn. Let it burn. So it's always going to start with just an acceptance, like, okay, this is here, right? This is here. Because, like you said, like the resistance isn't the way. So a deep acceptance that this is here, but also this deep acceptance that you are the light. You are the light. And so we're inviting your light, your consciousness to burn this thing up. Now, if you believe, this is where most of us make the mistake, myself included. If I believe I am this small human being and these things are happening to me and it's too much, well, then I'm going to start sinking. I'm going to start sinking. But when I have great faith in my divinity, when I have great faith in the divinity, and I see, oh, this darkness is coming to the light. Of course it's coming to the light. It needs the light. It's coming into the light to be transmuted. Okay. Okay. And I want to be crystal clear here. This is not something that I'm like doing personally. It's more just a willingness to sit with it. And the light and the radiance that this is, that all of life is. And I just let the darkness be consumed by the light. But most of us have faith that the darkness is greater than the light. And when we have that type of faith, well, we tend to drown in it. But when we have faith in the light, then we see, this world almost like a bonfire. And a big part of this lineage is the teachings of Sri Aurobindo. And, basically his teachings were about an evolutionary enlightenment. An evolution. I wish evolution was easy, but it's not. Evolution, it tends to be hard. It tends to be hard. And so it's that willingness just to sit in the density, in the heaviness, in the angst, in the fear, and just letting it burn. Letting it burn. And eventually we see, well, of course the light wins. Of course the light wins. The only time the light doesn't win is when we turn our back on it and have faith in the darkness. And let's be clear here about having faith in the darkness. What that really means, just practically, is when we have faith in our feelings of discomfort. And I've said this often, like if we want to be free, we have to be greater than our feelings. And so Taylor, like life is challenging you right now, giving you more and more work. more and more work. And you'll find like God will start to pile it on. Probably already has started to pile it on. And as that happens, we have to look and say, am I a little human being who's a victim of life, a victim of God? And if so, like you'll feel like that. You'll feel like a victim. You'll feel overwhelmed. But if you say, like, excuse me, but if you say like, no, fuck that. I'm a bodhisattva. I stand in the truth and I let the fire burn. I let it burn. And again, like I'll be blunt here, like the fire isn't always comfortable. I love to be a teacher who just talks about bliss and ecstasy and chanting Ram and this and that, and getting high on the Dharma or whatever. But I'm really practical. I'm a realist. I don't like to bullshit people. When you sit in the fire, it gets really hot. It gets really hot. If you sit on the outside of the fire, you get burned. If you become the fire, it's a glorious thing. It's a glorious thing. But even though it is glorious, it can still be quite difficult just for your human psychological self, your physical self. There's a lot of days, most days, where I find myself on the ground. And, I'm just letting this fire burn. But I find myself on the ground because my body literally feels beat up by life on a daily basis. And so, like this path, it's not for the faint of heart. It requires that we're spiritual warriors, that we're warriors. And a warrior, this sounds a little bit crazy, but like warriors don't care about feelings. They care about the truth. They care about justice. They care about the highest. They fight for truth despite how it feels. And so I know this is an unpleasant teaching. It's, like this isn't a pleasant world. It's not a pleasant world. It's not a pleasant world. Now, if we get a little bit more specific and a little bit more proactive, it's always helpful to look at the places we get entangled. I personally get entangled. I personally give my power away when someone's not happy with me. When someone's not happy with me. And that's a common thing. Just in the role that I am, I spoke a little bit about that earlier. You and I spoke about that Wednesday night, that sometimes I say things and it upsets people and it hurts their feelings. And I notice myself, like I get entangled there where I'm caring about what other people are thinking when I'm doing my job. It's like, no, like you can't do that, Greg. Like, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. My job is to speak the truth and just let it be. Let it be. When my ego wants to check in and make sure everybody's okay and everyone's feeling okay. And that's one of the ways I give my power away. And I notice it's like, oh, like in that department, I feel a lot like when I offend someone, I'll feel that person for days arguing with me. And I just have to say, no. what I said was the truth. If it wasn't the truth, then I have to ask for forgiveness. But let's say it was the truth. I offended someone, offended their ego, which again is my job. But I have to be willing to sit while their ego attacks me, and it will. It does. Like you'll know this, as a teacher, as a healer, as whatever. It's like you speak the truth, and then you offend people, and then their ego will attack you often for days. And so then I just keep giving it over to the fire. And it's very it's a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass. Like it literally is a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass. But it's just part of the job of just saying, okay, you're going to feel all kinds of things. Now, I know I have some friends, some colleagues. I'm even going to say this. I have some colleagues who were friends who I stopped being friends with because they became so damn impersonal that like it's almost like they stopped feeling anything in this world. And let me make sure I'm describing this correctly, because some people, some people will teach you just become completely impersonal, completely detached, and you won't feel anything. But I think often that is a form of hiding from life. Like my understanding, my experience is when your heart is open, when your heart is open to life, you will feel everything. You will feel everything. Now, some people hang out in like this little sliver of enlightenment, like kind of like a mental enlightenment. It's a real form of enlightenment, but it's a transcendent enlightenment where they don't feel anything. And I've seen some people pull that off. But what I found is when I've tried to be in relationship with individuals like that, it's very difficult. It's very difficult because there's no heartfelt connection. There's no sense of trust with them. And they can be a really powerful teacher, but there seems to be a real harshness about them. And also, it just seems like the enlightenment isn't in the realm of the heart, which, of course, I can't stand for that. So when the heart is open, you're going to feel everything. But as we come down into the hara, and you know this, when we come down into the hara, this immense strength comes online. And this strength, it's a mix between like indestructibility and you don't give a fuck how anything feels. You just care about what the truth is. And at the same time, because the heart is open, you feel everything. And it creates this very confusing dynamic where you tend to feel a tremendous amount. And so, there can be like, I have a lot of feelings. And so that, I might have tears, most days of the week, I have tears. But because there's this strength here, I'm not moved away from feeling. I'm not moved away from the world. I'm not transcending into this place of equanimity where, everything is just like whitewashed over. And so to me, we become fearless through facing this thing, Taylor. This thing, say, like you've done a tremendous job of sitting with your own feelings, your own experience, for year after year after year after year after year. And now you're doing it with others. So it's one thing to do it with yourself, just to sit and feel and experience everything that's within Taylor. Now let's erase, you know, Taylor's sense of self. And so now Taylor gets to feel all of life. It's like you'll find yourself, doing what I'm doing like right now, laughing and crying a lot most days. Laughing and crying a lot. Now you do this funny thing, because I've hung out with you a lot. You do this thing. Maybe you can show us all what you do. You do this. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like whoa. Yeah, it's like whoa, like I'm feeling all this, right?
Yeah.
And, it's a funny thing. Like we all have like our little, like our animal movements, our animal noises, but like you might find yourself making that noise more often. Oh, and these waves of feeling washing over you. You might even find yourself being knocked to the ground. Knocked to the ground. But I encourage you to look, Taylor, at your consciousness. Has your consciousness been knocked to the ground? Has that which is awake been knocked to the ground? Has that which is clear, like, has it been defiled? Or is it clarity having a tremendous amount of feeling? Is it an open heart having a tremendous amount of feeling? And when you start to see that your heart is not shutting down, it's just feeling a lot. And it's okay. Eventually you come to realize no feeling can destroy you. No feeling can overwhelm you. Your consciousness. Now, feelings can absolutely overwhelm your body, overwhelm your mind, overwhelm your emotional nature, but it can't overwhelm your consciousness. And when we start to have faith in your consciousness, and I want to point this out, there's people, there's Sangha members here who have faith in your consciousness, Taylor. And I want you to hear that they have faith in your consciousness. So you better have faith in your consciousness. You know what I mean? You better have faith in it. They have faith in it. You better have faith in it. You better have faith. And of course you do. I'm just trying to cheer you on for when those moments when you start to feel more and more and more. It's always a question, like, if you want to be awake, like, in order to be awake, you have to have faith in the truth always. But as egos, we have faith in our feelings and our thoughts always. And that's not the way. That's not the way. So you're just beginning to play the game at this much higher level. It's like, oh, I'm feeling a lot. There's a lot of feeling here. Well, what is Taylor? Taylor is the world. Taylor is the hugeness of existence. That's what you are. Of course, I'm feeling a lot. I am the hugeness of existence. Of course, I feel like a bag of rocks. There's bags of rocks in existence. There's heaviness in existence. There's density in existence. There's anxiety in existence. There's bliss and freedom in existence. And we don't trip over bliss and freedom. We trip over the bags of rocks, the density. And you know this. I know you know all this is is our job is to say yes to it all. Yes to it all. Whereas our ego, it wants to say no to the majority of it and yes to a small sliver. But the problem is when you want to be free, you stop caring how you feel. You stop caring how you feel. You include how you feel. You include how the world feels. In fact, inclusivity just tends to happen. Like, I couldn't turn this off if I tried. I'd be like, a lot of times I like to turn this off. Like, I don't want to feel all this. I don't want to feel this heaviness, or when people hate me, it's like, I don't want to feel that. But I mean, come on. I'm not going to shut down. You can't shut down. It's a real problem. You get to a point where you can't shut down anymore. You can't shut down anymore. And so at some point, it just becomes a fact. It just becomes a fact. But some of us, like, I'm going to say something silly here. Like, I still argue with some facts of this world. Like, it's starting to get cold in Colorado. And there's still a little part of me that will argue with that. A little bit in my body is just like, oh, like, I don't like to be cold. I'm supposed to live in the tropics, But come on. Like, if you notice, like, even if I do argue with it, I'm going to feel that cold. I can't stop myself from feeling it. And when we're awake, like, we're not in the business of stopping life. We're in the business of being life in all of its ways. And so just a fun question, is like just a real basic question. Like, do I need to be afraid of this? Like, do I need to be afraid of a feeling of heaviness or denseness? Like, do I need to be afraid of that? Like, am I going to allow heaviness and denseness to veil reality? And it's like, of course not. Of course not. Of course not. But I'm going to tell you this, Taylor. Look, I have great faith in you, my friend. I have great faith in you. Like, you know what to do. When these things come, we breathe, we feel, we open, we experience. We let this thing wash over us. And there's this funny tantric thing that happens is when you face darkness like head on, when you drink it in, when you eat it up, you start to discover, oh shit, this isn't darkness. This isn't darkness. Like, when you drink in anxiety, you feel alive. You feel alive. You feel alive. But when we avoid darkness, when we avoid anxiety, when we say, oh shit, like, I don't want to feel all this, or they shouldn't be arguing with me, like, when we do that type of thing, we create a wall of separation between us and the thing, and we feel dense. We feel heavy. But when we drink it up, the whole world comes alive. The whole world comes alive. Then you start to see, like, with me, I don't know what this is. Like, I always look at God and I'm like, you've given me so much fire. But like, when I drink this stuff up, I look around, I just see fire everywhere. Everywhere. Not hellish fire, just like fiery light. I see it everywhere. So much fire. So much fire. The whole world becomes fire. And it's like, okay, the whole world is fire. And here I thought the whole world was ruled by darkness. When you turn toward it, you face it, you drink it up, you transmute it. And this is your job, Taylor. Like this is your job. And I've harassed you a lot, about you stepping into this. But at the end, I want you to be real clear and specific about it and this and that. But like, come on, at the beginning of the day, the end of the day, in the middle of the day, like, what's your job? Your job is to be the light. Your job is to be this fire. And it's what you are. It's what you are. And this light is here to shine into the darkness, to gobble up the darkness. Like that's what we're here to do. That's what we are. And, again, I just like to be real practical about work. Like work can be hard. It can be difficult. It can be exhausting. But the more you give yourself to it, the more you just fall into being the light, you start to feel yourself just being carried. Being carried. And occasionally your body will complain. Your body will be like, oh, this is really hard. It'll say, ooh, 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 ooh. Do that thing. But you'll smile and you'll laugh. And you'll know that you can't turn this light off. You can't turn it off. Or even if you wish, what was the thing in the Matrix? You take the blue pill, you go back to sleep. It's just like there's no blue pill. There's no blue pill. There's only the red one. And you've already taken it. So it's just like we breathe, we feel, we open, we let it burn. Whether it feels wonderful and blissful, whether it feels horrific. Like sometimes I go to sleep and it just feels like things are being burned alive in my consciousness. And I'm just like, the hell is this? Like, what's going on here? I'm just trying to go to sleep, God, It just feels just like things are just being burnt alive in this darkness. In this darkness, just sitting in the darkness, things are being burnt alive. Burnt alive in this fire, just burning up the darkness. And it's, I'll just say this, just from a human perspective, it's a pretty crazy way to live. Because the human dream is all about running away from the darkness, running away from that which is heavy, running away from that which is inconvenient or difficult or dense or heavy, running toward that which feels good. But God has chosen you. I mean, God has chosen each of us, saying, hey, I want to wake up in you. I want this fiery light, this peace, this truth, this love to burn. I want to transform this world through each of you. And we can say, okay, okay, boss. Or we can say, nope. And the problem is, if we say nope, we suffer more. If we say yes, we're still going to suffer. But we're going to suffer for the right reasons. For the right reasons. And eventually, what we find is, this will sound a little bit crazy, but just that suffering doesn't mean anything to us anymore. Like we're not moved by pain. We're not moved by pain. We're not moved by pleasure. We're only moved by the truth. So anyways, I hope there was something helpful there, Taylor. Anything you want to share or reflect or correct?
Well, that was really helpful. A lot of it is just opening into, I think there is a point at which the psyche is like trying to or like reorient with a greater access to
Yeah.
feeling and to is on earth and in this world.
Yeah.
And just that little reminder, it's the same game. It's the same game.
Same game. Same game. In fact, the game just never stops. Just never stops. Like it's going to be different when we go to heaven, but it's just like when we're in this world, in this evolutionary world, it's the same game. Now, I'm going to wrap this up because I see it's late, but if your psyche struggles, like the teaching that I brought forward today is for you to have faith in your highest nature, to have faith in God, to have faith in love, to have faith in the truth. And so that's one thing. But also if our psyche's really struggling, like I say this prayer every day, Lord, give me the strength. Like me, the psyche, like the psyche, give the psyche, the body, the strength to choose the highest, to be here, to sit in the fire. Give me the strength not to fall apart. Give me the strength to be willing. Give me the strength to continue to love. Give me the strength to continue to have faith. Give me the strength to show up. Give me the strength, God. Give me the strength, because there will be time after time you'll find places in your ego where it's just like, I'm not strong enough to do this. And there's a great truth in that. Our ego is not strong enough to do this. That's why we're doing it from presence. But there's always going to be some aspect of our ego that's along for the ride. That's along for the ride. And we can ask for compassion and strength and support. And we can validate, our ego, say like, this is really hard. This is really hard, but we're going in this direction. Like we're going in this direction. And ultimately, the thing too, like sometimes our ego needs to know, like it gets scared of annihilation and all this kind of thing. The only thing, excuse me, I've said this countless times, the only thing we have to let go of are the things that don't serve us. Only thing we need to let go of are limitations. Like we're never asked to let go of a true aspect of ourselves. And so that's good to remember, like with the ego, when it feels like, oh, I can't do this, it's like, you're right, you can't do this. That's why I'm stepping into the truth of my being. So I'm stepping into my highest nature. So I'm calling upon support from God. But our ego cannot do this. But for most of us, like our ego has to crack a couple times in significant ways where it stops trying. Because if your ego, Taylor, tries to hold the weight of the world, you'll find yourself in big trouble. In big trouble. And sometimes the ego has to do it. Like for me, like my ego tried to hold on, while the weight of the world was coming on to me. And I just had panic attack after panic attack after panic attack to where it just got to be ridiculous. It's just like, okay, look, dude, you don't got this. Like, you don't got it. You don't have to have it. Like, this is not your job. This is not your responsibility. You sit back, you relax, and you, Craig, like you, Craig's ego, you get to be held in this space of love too. You get, like, too often we take it so personally and we think that we're the healer and I'm the awake one and this and that, the ego. And that just ends in disaster. But at some point, when you're holding the weight of the world, you're also holding your own ego. And the you that's holding that is God. Is God. And that's a glorious thing. That's a glorious thing. So anyways, thank you so much, Taylor, for showing up and sharing yourself with us. Yeah, what a blessing. What a
Yeah,
blessing.
thank you, Craig.
Yeah, yeah. So good to have you in the Sangha, my friend. Like, truly, I'm always so happy to have you here. I'm always thinking you're going to run away to someone better, or just hurry up and fire me, But I'm on your team, and I hope you know that. And you're welcome to fire me whenever you want. But uh, I've always had deep respect for you, and I can say this, like, for those of you who don't know, like, Taylor is a really bright light. He's really spiritually sophisticated, and I just feel honored, Taylor, that you've stuck around this long with me. Yeah, truly, truly. Yeah. All right. Okay, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you all so much for being here. I said December 6th is when we're going to have our next retreat. I think there might be a Mercury in retrograde happening sometime soon at some point. So everyone get that on your radar. But either way, we're standing the truth. We're walking forward to the highest. Let us all close our eyes and invite world peace to triumph here on planet Earth. World peace. We call for an end for war, the ending of wars, the ending of violence. We call forth the truth to come forward, to be spoken, to be lived, to be embodied through us all, throughout humanity, throughout creation. We ask that this world be blessed, that our environment, the earth, the oceans, the mountains, the skies, the forest, all be brought into harmony again. We pray for healing. We pray for reconciliation. We pray for the highest. Okay. Good night, everyone. So much love. Bye for now.